around when things happen to us that are stressful, overwhelming, painful, we can move on from those and heal from those if we are held and met with safety and love, essentially. You know, there's a psychological term for that, but for the layman, it's simply safety and love. And and if we can be met in that, we don't stuff doesn't get stuck in us. Ideas and beliefs and kind of threat response activation doesn't get stuck in us if we're held in enough love and safety. And so that's the missed experience, right? The missed experience when we were growing up in all of these situations is just not getting that antidote to the pain in that moment. And consequently, the process gets stuck. It's stagnant, it's swirling around, it's not going anywhere, it's coming up at all the times when it's not appropriate. And all we're doing in Hakomi is creating the right conditions to be able to hold that, to allow that flow to come back in. And then that nourishment can go in. And then we offer a real experiential exploration of what it's like to allow the nourishment in. So the system can be like, oh, right, let's recalibrate. That's what it can be like. Cool. And then as you go through life, you have options. You can, you know, defer back to that old management pattern, that old habitual response, or you have this new option that's here, like this new way of understanding, perceiving, and responding to the world. So the missed experience and the missing experience are kind of two different things. But once that love and that safety is provided, it will just unfold.
Mm. Yeah, and I would like to add something to that because I would the level of nourishment that I've been able to take in with Hakomi has had to be a bit like your story, has had to be titrated, which means
Mm.
a little bit at a time, not too much at once,
Mm.
because I can see in my own character that whatever the missing experience is, you know, that it's well, I can only speak for myself. So let's just say that intimacy has had to be kind of as if you're opening a box, you just let a bit out and then a bit more next time, and then maybe a bit, because otherwise it's too overwhelming, it's too much. So if
Mm.
you've got somebody that hasn't had something for most of their life, you know, it's just go gently. And I've had lots of how this translates into daily life, because I think that's the real measure, isn't it, of anything that you're doing therapeutically is how does this actually and spirituality, how does this
Mm.
translate into my daily life? And I can see that these survival patterns and the missing experiences and the ability to be able to take nourishment in is still very much an ongoing process for me. And this is what I mean by things not being a problem. And when I'm whole, when I'm healed, you know, it's like, well, actually, no, this body has had a particular patterning for an incredibly long time.
Mm.
And slowly, slowly, it's starting to decode, you know, because you mentioned it, beliefs. These are beliefs about the world that I'm in being reflected back at me. That doesn't change overnight. And even though I'm able to take a lot more nourishment in my life outside of a Hakomi session, it's still very much an ongoing process because I've still got protective patterns that will come up that don't feel safe,
Mm-hmm.
you know. And then there's other scenarios where I've really, really kind of um, in awe of how close I've been able to get to some people and, you know, form bonds. So what I would just like to maybe highlight is that all of these things are progressive and becoming.
Mm. I'm curious to know, like, what differences you actually notice in yourself, like when something does come up that is that old habitual way of responding that you've now got to know, what happens in you now compared to pre-Hakomi?
Yeah, well, I would say that I've got more choice now to observe
Mm,
what kind of nervous system state am I in. So that's what I would say. I've got much more of an inner awareness of how much capacity do I have in this moment?
mm,
What do I need, in other words? What do I actually need because I'm in tune and in sync with my body?
hmm
And that's maybe something we haven't mentioned is that Hakomi is obviously a somatic therapy, it's body based. So I've become very familiar with what my body actually needs and what my body wants. And I would say, if I'm being really transparent and honest, I've got more of a pause, more time between my actions and why I'm doing them,
mm,
much more of an understanding afterwards as well. And yet, in environments where we've all got triggers, right? Where we get these special people that come along and trigger our unconscious material. Do I stay completely mindful and able to self-study in that moment? No. But am I able to go away, reflect, listen, track, see that that might be my pattern, see that that might be the other person's pattern, take responsibility for my part, um, take it into another Hakomi session to self-study. It's kind of this, I would say it's more conscious living with moments of if the trigger's strong enough, then, I've lost
out at the
unconscious,
knees.
and just to be really honest about that.
Mm, yeah.
And I think that's also part of the loving kindness. We're trained to give this to everybody else. And part of my learning is, okay, and you know what? I didn't do that perfectly. I messed up. And
Mm,
it's all right. It's okay. I can like be kind with myself, forgive myself. I'm not perfect. And, and make amends if I need to make amends.
mm, yeah. It reminds me of that quote that's often attributed to Viktor Frankl. It was actually Rollo May that, between every action and response, there is a pause. And in that pause is our opportunity to choose our response. And what we're doing in Hakomi is creating space for that pause to study what we are doing so we can choose to do it a different way.
Yeah. And, to quote all the greats, this is young, isn't it? So until you make the unconscious conscious,
Mm,
you will call how your life turns out fate. Um, it's just so this is just what happens. Well, it's not just what happens because we all have the opportunity to have what I might call a worldview shift, that,
mm,
oh, actually, you know what? The world in which I think I live in, because this is part of my survival personality, might not. And that's the bit I love, right? This is the don't know
yes.
part, right? This is the don't know. When your worldview comes into question, and I find myself, it's kind of like checkmates your brain. It checkmated my brain. It's like, is this, it's Byron Katie, is this absolutely true? This is actually what's happening. And may I be open to the idea that I've got a whole range of referencing material in my brain from my survival patterning, and I'm actually seeing my past in the present. And can I be open to the idea?
Mm.
Yeah,
Sorry, I interrupted you.
that's okay.
But I wasn't quite ready to come in with my next clever thought. But, but there's this thing that you've been just speaking to that that I've been like just coming to understand so powerfully through Hakomi about how we all live in our little virtual reality worlds and our beliefs and our habits and the way we hold our body and the way we move through the world and the way we breathe and the habitual expressions on our faces, they sculpt our reality. They influence our perception. They influence what information gets through and what sense we make of it. The beliefs that we have are confirmed by these little snippets of information that make it through this immensely complex machine. Well, more than a machine, immensely complex miracle that is our brain. And one thing about Hakomi that's so humbling is to see, oh, at the beginning of this, I thought my options were A or B. And now I'm like, oh my God, Shakespeare exists. Like, not only is there just one or two letters, there's not only are there more letters, but like they can be combined together in this wholly new and creative manner. Like, there's so many other perspectives and ways of seeing the world and other pieces of information that I was not letting through.
Yeah.
And that's that choice. That is where that you can then choose how you're responding to the world.
Yeah, it's so enlivening, isn't it? When I hear you speak like that, it's so expansive.
Yeah, that, and I could see you like feeling that a moment ago, and like I was like, yeah, let's grow that. Let's bring that in. Let's because that's
Yeah.
what we love. Like that's what we're doing it for, right? Is those moments where the cogs shift, the paradigm changes, and suddenly, the scales fall away, whatever metaphor you want to use, your world changes.
Yeah, absolutely. And it's like when I hear you speak, my somatic responses that I take is it's like a deep breath in. It's like, wow, there's so much more air in what you've just said. You know,
Mm.
this is what we would call in Hakomi new possibilities. And that's the wonderful thing, isn't it? Like you say, when your paradigm starts to kind of erode somewhat, you know,
Yeah.
and then there's the kind of is this place of the unknown? It's then, well, what then? What,
Mm.
and to be open to the element of surprise,
Mm.
and that an uncertainty isn't necessarily so threatening. It's
Mm.
there's an openness, there's a space.